You are watching
We're talking
Xirtus.
about like the ways that you can use AI. Like it feels like the timing of the files, like, and they just released these RFK files as well. Like you couldn't have gone through these files like you can today, like with the use of AI. Like that's one of the better uses of AI is like when you have a massive amount of stuff like that. I don't even know how they're doing it when you're dealing with like PDFs and all of this, but like it seems like something major is happening because speaking of like the like one of the things of value that I saw from those JFK files was that I had no idea. I don't know if this was known before. Maybe I'm just not in the loop, but that they were like monitoring Oswald. The FBI for was monitoring Oswald for like a long time, like but like leading up to it. But like it's kind of maybe we discussed this before, but it's kind of a red flag that you have all of this accounting of what was happening with Oswald in Russia. What a good like not that he was a good shot, but like what his ability was. Like he's a Marine. Like remember in Full Metal Jacket when they talk about Oswald and like yeah, he was trained in the Marine Corps or whatever. But they're kind of like putting down his abilities like in files like before he's they're saying that he shot the president or speculating or whatever. But like there's like 2 days leading up to it where there's no accounting for where he is. That to me, that what's missing from those files seems more suspect than even like what is in them, like in that way. It's like, so you were
Totally.
monitoring him that whole time in Russia too, and like able to keep track of everything that he was doing, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't know, he's just disappeared, I guess. It's like, no, it seems like some files disappeared. You know what I mean? Like,
To answer your question quickly, 1947 is the year that's alleged to have happened. That George Hunter White busts Jack Ruby. 1947.
wow,
A good
dude.
year too. Yeah.
I don't know enough about Jack Ruby. That's nuts.
Well, he was associated with the Juan Batista and the Cubans as well, because like the Jewish hotel groups that were in South in Cuba, and so that's a big reason why Las Vegas happened, because they're like, look, you can't go to Cuba. How about we give you Las Vegas, it's the middle of nowhere, and you guys can set that up as your sort of power spot.
Check this out too. This is a kind of crazy thing about Jack Ruby's history. That 1943 he joins the Air Force, but he's already 34 years old at this time, which is like
Crazy.
maybe half a decade shy of no longer being eligible to even join. And he joins and he actually excels, even though he has to work twice as hard to keep up with these young kids. He excels in this stuff. I mean, he had already been running the streets, and I always wonder this part, was this like a reverse sheep dip? Was this him getting some sort of state credibility to go alongside of all the street cred that he had, and that it was a very utilitarian thing? I don't know. And he claimed at the time that this was because he was so patriotic. He was just such an American that this was the main reason that he did this. And his actual last name was Rubenstein, and he was I guess mocked and even beat up for being Jewish for like almost his entire youth. And ends up
all these people, you got Jewish mafia, Russian mafia, Mexican mafia, Cuban mafia. What is it really? What's the common denominator here? It's nationalism. I think. Well, because what's a mafia? Mafia is like the word conspiracy theorist, and it's like a racist word, in my opinion, to use the word mob or mafia. Because what you're basically trying to do is say this group of colonialists who've come to a not completely, the infrastructure for the United States wasn't fully Americanized yet. We push this idea of New English America, like that this is the national truth, that America is a baseball playing Calvinist Puritan group. That's not really realistic. Most of America is a bunch of other people.
Somebody's commenting here. They say it means family. Isn't that true? Technically, isn't that like the etymological like?
No. Mafia actually comes from mafit, which is an Arabic word, which has to do with taking taxes. So it means the mafit. What it was that Sicily and a lot of these countries were part of the Arabic Cordoba Caliphate, and when they were part of the Caliphate, if you weren't a Muslim, you had to pay a tax for not being Muslim, right? And so the mafit were the group that went around to either burn your lands and houses down or protect them, depending on if you paid them the tax. The jizya tax. But the jizya tax ended up being not important after the fall of the Cordoba Caliphate. And so the jizya continued under the Catholic Church for a protection, right? And so the Mafia gets its word from that. But it's also a word that means in the Sicilian Mafia, it means to be quiet, to be a good, decent man is a silent man. So there's a lot of context that comes with it later. But you wouldn't say that
keep a secret. It's very Freemasonic, huh?
You wouldn't necessarily say that the Mexican cartel is a mafia, even if they have Sicilian, because not everyone in Mexico are from Mexico, right? Like they're a melting pot like us. There's going to be Jews and Italians and everyone. Like, what's his name? Oh my God, the comedian from Mexico, the redhead guy,
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. When I think of Mexicans, the first person that comes to my mind is Louis C.K. Because he is like, that's what a real Mexican's like. Not people don't understand that, but.
Yeah, can I just say like Lenny Bruce had this bit around Jack Ruby. I don't know if you guys I can't do it justice, but he's so funny where he's talking about how like the Jews are gonna love me for this. Like I'm gonna be the guy who killed the guy that killed the president. And oh man, you'd have to hear it coming from Lenny Bruce, but it's like, and also the context of the times, like it was really edgy for its time because it wasn't long afterwards. It was like still the 1960s, and he was just talking about like trying to get in the mind of Jack Ruby as how loved he would be by the Jews for taking out the guy who took I don't know.
Took out the guy, took out the guy.
So I'm trying to hunt down a straight to TV movie that I believe was shot in the perspective of Jack Ruby's dog, which in my mind is one of those weird it's either a red herring or a smoking gun of some kind, but that his dog was named Sheba, and apparently he loved this dog more than a human being, and he would bring it with him everywhere. And the fact that he left the dog in his car when he went out to do the assassination has been cited in some of like the deeper rabbit holes of almost like a proof that he was under some sort of a trance, and that if it had been premeditated, Jack Ruby was a guy that was well-versed in crime. Like if he wanted to pull off a hit, he'd probably figure out a good way to do it. Even if he was a hothead, he had just been in the profession for so long. So that one always kind of stood out to me, this like whole backstory of Sheba the dog. I feel like it's a worthy rabbit hole. You've never gone down it.
I'm sure I bet you Adam Go-Rightly is hip to that. You know Adam Go-Rightly? I actually like about a year ago or something, I asked him if he'd come on Synctank, and because I interviewed him with Always Record like I don't know 8 years ago or something, but he said no. I sent him a link, and I think whatever we were talking about, he's like, oh, I get the idea, whatever. But there you go.
His name is Jack Ruby's dog, Little Sheba, because that's Elon Musk's
Doge.
Doge dog is a Shiba Inu.
Is that an inside joke?
It was a Shiba Inu, though. I don't believe it was.
Bruh, it doesn't really matter.
We can meme into existence.
The name Shiba, it was a little Shiba. Like that's.
I wanted to ask you too. I mean, you must have heard this before, and you already kind of, I think, explained the etymology of the word mafia. But have you heard the conspiracy definition, where it's basically Mazzini authorizes robberies, fires, and poisonings? And I'm just wondering, was that retrofitted in the time of Mazzini himself, or was this like a 1990s retrofit? Have you heard that before?
That seems like well, okay. So this I've heard it, but like I'm just Googling it to see, because I thought it came from like the 1960s, but according to this, it says 1860s. It might have been as old of an acronym. So if it's that old, that's pretty interesting. Giuseppe Mazzini was credited with the motto Mazzini autorizza forti incendi avvelenamenti. So Mazzini authorizes theft, arson, and poisoning. That is kind of a joke, I thought. But if it's as old as the 1860s, that's pretty interesting. I mean, it could possibly be.
And who's to say that the 1990s version or the 1950s, 60s, 70s version of Mafia doesn't exist because of this popular acronym that was sort of like retrofitted on top of whatever the original etymological roots were?